Okay, let's dive into something absolutely massive today. We're talking about the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
Yeah, specifically the Farm Production and Conservation Mission Area, FPAC.
Right, and think about what that covers. Supporting farmers, protecting land, managing risk with things like crop insurance.
Huge programs.
And every single part of that relies on, well, just an incredible amount of data.
Making sense of it all, keeping it reliable, accessible, secure. Across an organization that big, that's a monumental challenge.
Absolutely.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. Today, we're not just talking about the challenge, we're digging into the actual blueprint for tackling it.
A real-world government document, a performance work statement, or PWS.
Exactly. This one is for a major IT services contract, specifically for USDA FPAC's data management and analytics.
And our goal here is to unpack this thing, right? Show you the key requirements, maybe some surprising complexities.
Yeah, what it tells us about how these big, critical IT systems actually get modernized and run in government today. Because understanding a document like this, for you listening, it's like a shortcut. You see the practical reality.
The technical demands, the security layers, the compliance hoops you might not even imagine.
And the scale is just vast. This PWS supports mission areas across 15 different business lines within FPAC.
Involving agencies everyone's heard of, maybe?
Oh, yeah. The Farm Service Agency, FSA, they handle commodity programs. The Natural Resources Conservation Service, NRCS, focused on conservation. And the Risk Management Agency, RMA, things like crop insurance.
All relying on this data infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
And this contract, it's not just about keeping the lights on, is it?
No, not at all. The document is really clear. They're moving away from older systems.
Specifically calls out Oracle and Informix data warehouses. On-premises stuff.
Right, because they weren't meeting all the analytic needs anymore, and critically, they're nearing end of support. Big driver there.
So the core mission here is modernization, moving to the cloud.
A major migration, specifically to Amazon Web Services, AWS.
And they've even named the new platform, DART.
Data Analytics Reporting Tools, DART. It's meant to be a strategic leap, leveraging cloud for much better data analytics.
Okay, so let's start with the contract itself. How is this whole thing structured? It's not like buying a software license off the shelf.
No, definitely not. The PWS describes it as an indefinite quantity contract, an IDIQ.
Right, IDIQ. For folks who deal with government contracts, that's a familiar term, but what does it mean practically?
It means flexibility, basically. The government isn't committing to buy, say, exactly $100 million worth of services up front.
Okay.
Instead, they set up this contract vehicle, this framework, with one or more contractors. Then they issue specific work orders as needed.
Called task orders or TOs.
Exactly, so they can define specific projects or support needs over time.
And the potential value here, the document gives some numbers.
It does. Estimates are around $14 million to $18 million per year, with a total ceiling for the whole IDIQ of $158 million.
That's substantial. A serious investment over the long haul.
And it is potentially long haul, up to 10 years total.
10 years. How's that broken down?
It's a 5-year base period plus one 5-year option period the government can choose to exercise.
10 years is an eternity in technology. You mentioned work is issued via task orders. The PWS has this interesting bit about on-ramp and off-ramp. What's that for?
Yeah, that's about keeping things competitive and, well, agile over that decade.
Okay.
The document says it's there to incentivize competition, maybe bring in new contractors later if they have innovative approaches, and importantly, manage performance.
So if a contractor isn't cutting it?
They can be off-ramped, meaning they might not get new task orders, though they'd likely finish existing ones.
And conversely?
The government can on-ramp new contractors, maybe to increase the pool or bring in specific skills. It builds in flexibility.
Makes sense for such a long contract.
Yeah.
And the people doing the work, where are they based?
Remote work is approved, which is pretty standard now.
Okay.
Core hours are defined, though, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Central Time, Monday to Friday. Covers the spread of USDA folks across time zones.
But after-hours work is expected sometimes.
Yeah, for maintenance, urgent issues, deployments, that kind of thing. It's anticipated.
Right, so the contract framework is set. What's the big picture? The high-level technical vision?
The main goal, really, is providing comprehensive, cloud-based support for everything data, management, admin, warehousing, analytics. It's about modernizing FPAC's whole data landscape.
Which means looking at what they have now, building new stuff, and enhancing the cloud systems they're moving to.
Exactly. Analyzing, developing, enhancing.
And a key technical aim seems to be around standards and consistency.
Huge focus there. establishing robust standards for data quality, consistency, interoperability, usability.
Getting away from data silos.
That's the idea. Aggregate data into a single or, near single system, probably a modern database like an RDBMS or something similar in the cloud. Make it truly usable for decision-making across FSA, NRCS, RMA.
That single source of truth concept sounds vital for agencies like that. The PWS lists a ton of criteria for these new systems.
Oh, it's extensive. They need to be operable, accessible, meet business needs, maintain integrity, meet all the security standards.
And they specifically call out agile development.
Mandatory. It's not optional.
Okay, mandatory agile. What does that actually mean in this context, according to the PWS?
They define it as, iterative, focused on adapting to change, delivering working software faster, collaboration, responding to evolving needs, showing results, rather than just writing massive documents up front.
So, flexibility baked in. What else?
Systems need to be flexible, configurable, easy to administer, Section 508 compliant, that's accessibility.
We'll definitely come back to 508.
Centralized storage, secure access, a single point of entry. They also want systems that can adopt emerging tech, streamline admin tasks, track workflows, use role-based access control, RBAC.
RDAC, okay.
Interface with existing tools, and ideally be available 24/7. It's a very demanding list.
It really is. Sets a high bar. So, okay, a task order gets awarded. What happens immediately? Day one.
Within 5 business days, there's a mandatory kickoff meeting.
5 days? That's quick.
Yep. And this meeting is where the contractor has to lay out how they're going to implement their plan, their approach, their methodology, the details.
And they need to bring homework to that meeting.
They do. 2 critical documents are due at the kickoff.
Which are?
A quality control plan, the QCP, how they'll ensure quality and timeliness, and a transition in-out plan, how they'll start smoothly and how they'd hand things off cleanly at the end.
Plus meeting minutes due shortly after.
Yeah.
That focus on quality and smooth transitions right from the start, that says something.
It shows the government's priorities. Managing risk, ensuring continuity.
And who's the main point person steering the ship for the contractor?
They require a program manager, a PM. That person is at the single point of contact for the government team overseeing that task.
And they need to be reachable.
Readily available. The PWS says respond to government personnel within 24 hours, typically.
So definitely not just a name on an org chart. What are some of the PM's core duties listed?
Oh, it's a long list. Building the relationship with the government, points of contact, coordinating the whole contractor team, tasking, meetings, defining roles, maybe using a RAS-CI matrix.
Oh.
They assess the current situation, gather requirements, develop detailed project plans, work breakdown structures, timelines.
And those plans are due quickly, too.
Draft plans within 15 business days. Final plans a month after the TO award. It's a fast start.
Any other plans required early on?
Yep. Communication plan, risk management plan, deployment plan, training plan, all needed within just 1 week of the award.
Wow.
1 week. Plus, they analyze and recommend software licenses, run daily and weekly status meetings, provide real-time status reports, manage change requests.
Documentation is key, I assume.
Huge. Document everything in a government repository. GitHub is mentioned. Handle invoicing, assign resources, manage the project backlog in tools like Jira or Confluence.
Even website content.
And developing a dashboard automation plan within 30 days. It's a role intensely focused on structure, communication, and accountability.
Okay, that sets the stage, the management framework. Let's get to the meat. Handling the data itself. This feels foundational.
It absolutely is. This task area covers overall data management and strategic planning. The contractor works closely with the USDA teams
on strategy, models, figuring out the actual data needs across those different agencies.
Exactly. And then translating those needs into the real infrastructure.
Building the databases, the warehouses, the data streams.
Right. Providing the engineering support. And a massive piece of this is the migration.
Moving reports and data off those old Oracle and Informix systems.
Onto the new AWS cloud environment, Dart, and another system called EDAPT.
And they mentioned specific AWS services.
Yeah, S3 for storage, Aurora, which is compatible with PostgreSQL, Redshift for warehousing. Interestingly, they mentioned DataStage, an older ETL tool, likely for handling the legacy stuff, alongside AWS Glue for new development.
That mix of old and new tools. That really highlights the practical challenge of modernization, doesn't it?
It does. You can't just flip a switch. And performance optimization during that migration is called out specifically.
Makes sense. What about the more strategic side, beyond just moving bits and bytes?
They're expected to lead or collaborate on strategic roadmaps for data use, for analytics capabilities, even looking ahead to AI and ML.
AML, okay.
Yeah.
We'll circle back to that. And the data development process itself.
It's spelled out. Requirements: gathering, analysis, design, construction, testing unit, integration, certification, and supporting the production deployment.
And data quality is woven throughout all this.
Absolutely critical. Mandatory procedures for data accuracy. Documenting the metadata, both technical and business aspects. Defining the overall data architecture.
How data is secured, referenced, managed, organized.
Exactly. And developing a comprehensive data management strategy covering the whole life cycle. Collection, integration, harmonization, storage, and, importantly, governance.
Governance keeps popping up. It's clearly a major theme.
It's the framework that makes everything else usable and trustworthy. They also need to map out how data flows, identify gaps.
Gaps, like data they need but don't have.
Precisely. And propose ways to fill those gaps, maybe acquiring new data, forming partnerships.
So it's not just plumbing, it's understanding the data's journey and its purpose.
Exactly. On the database side, it includes optimizing models, translating business needs to technical specs, automating data feeds and dashboard refreshes. Defining standard architectural patterns is also key.
And documenting how things work. Standard operating procedures.
Detailed SOPs are required for desktop procedures, process flows, monitoring, everything, keeping it maintainable.
And how do they keep this data current as systems evolve?
Ongoing data maintenance is crucial. Updating sources as legacy systems retire, enriching and transforming data and documenting it all, making it part of a data catalog.
Handling errors.
Documenting and correcting data validation errors, often working with subject matter experts. Data archival, managing schema changes through formal release management. It's all in scope.
Okay, so that's handling the data. But the PWS has a specific task just for harmonize and optimize data sets. What's the focus there?
This is about bringing in specialized expertise for data architecture, specifically focused on integrating and optimizing those diverse data sets from FSA, NRCS, RMA, etc.
Taking those high-level business needs and turning them into concrete data models.
All right. Conceptual, logical, physical models, and evaluating the existing systems to figure out the best way to mesh them together.
Analyzing the current tech stack, interfaces security, the existing models, how data is visualized now.
All of that to understand the starting point.
And the harmonization itself sounds like deep analysis.
It requires a really comprehensive look at all the different data sets, finding common ground, differences, figuring out how to integrate them effectively.
And the contractor needs to be proactive here.
The document emphasizes that. Working independently, anticipating issues, clearly articulating operational impacts or risks.
Governance makes an appearance here too, I bet.
Oh yes. Defining and governing data modeling standards, tools, best practices, essential for consistency as they build this out. Includes developing coding standards too.
And making sure new models work with old systems where needed.
Reviewing existing systems for cross-compatibility, yeah.
And then actually building this out.
Implementing these requirements across different platforms. Relational databases, dimensional models, maybe even NoSQL, supporting downstream tools for reporting, visualization, analytics, ML.
A specific output mentioned is APIs.
Functional APIs, yeah. To make it easier for other applications to manage, analyze, and retrieve this harmonized data.
And everything under this task follows a specific guidebook.
The FPAC SDLC Governance Guidebook. Strict adherence required. They even need to provide high-level effort estimates within 3 business days of a request. Shows the expected responsiveness.
Okay, systems built, data flowing and structured. Now keeping it running reliably. Operations and maintenance, O&M.
Right, DME and O&M. Data management engineering, DME, is creating new apps or features. O&M is maintaining existing ones.
And this covers a lot of different technologies.
A whole mix. Supporting the legacy in Formix and Oracle, but also SQL Server, MySQL, PostgreSQL, Redshift, S3, in the cloud, plus automated processes, testing.
Providing steady support for the old warehouse until it's gone, plus the new Dart and EDAP platforms.
Exactly, and corrective maintenance is a big part of O&M. Troubleshooting, fixing bugs, correcting reports or dashboards that go wrong, updating business rules, helping with infrastructure or software upgrades.
Data engineering for Dart gets a specific mention here too.
Yeah, moving data from various sources, specifically for the new analytics capabilities in Dart.
And when new source systems come online?
More data admin, modeling, business rules, mapping work to integrate them.
Performance goals are strict here, I imagine.
Very reliable, accurate, secure, performant data integration and warehousing. explicitly optimizing cloud data performance in S3, Redshift, or Postgres.
The goal being ultimately that users and analysts can trust and rely on the data. No interruptions.
That's the business impact they're aiming for. Uninterrupted data access, improving efficiency, cutting down work request times, eliminating complaints about data quality or availability.
And again, adherence to governance standards.
Always. Following and maintaining government data management and governance standards.
Dashboards seem really central to the output here.
They are. The contractor manages the entire dashboard lifecycle, developing, supporting, maintaining, automating them on schedule, plus supporting the underlying data objects and pipelines.
Handling requests for new dashboards or reports.
Processing service requests, usually first in, first out, unless the government sets a different priority.
And they need skills in the tools USDA already uses, plus be ready for new ones.
Yep. Existing tools like Tableau, Power BI, EOS are mentioned, and they need to be ready for future tools like AWS Athena or Redshift Spectrum.
What else falls under O&M for dashboards?
Troubleshooting, creating operations manuals like how to interpret errors, how to restart things, making sure production reports actually refresh on time, following the formal production incident management process if things break.
Administering the BI tools themselves.
Providing Tableau and Power BI site administration, including usage reports.
And automation comes up again.
Automating manual routines wherever possible, for efficiency, for reliability.
And helping shut down the old stuff.
Supporting the decommissioning of the old on-premises hardware and software, a critical part of the cloud transition.
Database administration gets detailed too.
Specific DBA tasks for the cloud solutions. Managing schemas, objects, troubleshooting, capacity planning, security protocols, user access, performance tuning, writing SQL, knowledge transfer to federal staff, setting up alerts, documentation, researching new approaches, backup strategies. It's comprehensive.
Okay, so data managed, systems running. How does this translate into actual insights? Turning data into action with analytics and visualization?
This task is about the contractor teams working directly with agency leaders, identifying business problems.
And figuring out how data and analytics can solve them.
Exactly. Developing models, combining data sources, performing analyses. The output could be dashboards, geospatial maps, maybe even mobile reports.
And this is collaborative.
Highly. Collecting and validating requirements with government sponsors, stakeholders, using agile development, demonstrating prototypes, getting feedback, iterating until it's right.
Managing the release process for these products, too.
Implementing and managing release and change management through that agile lifecycle.
Communication is key here.
Weekly project status meetings with the government points of contact, COR and TPOC, are required, with documented notes.
And data validation is formal.
They have to solicit and receive validation from the government data owners. Ensures accuracy and buy-in.
How do they make sure these tools actually get used effectively?
Supporting user adoption is part of the job. Training, including user-focused sessions and self-service videos. Providing clear documentation for each report or app purpose, how to use it, questions it answers.
Formal, sign-off required.
Yep. Sign-off documentation for final products upon acceptance.
And documenting for the future.
Knowledge transfer is built in, documenting products so federal staff or others can support them later.
Testing is obviously critical before anything goes live.
Data validation with owners, plus application testing, testing upstream, downstream impacts of migration, all happens in non-production environments first.
They need to build and support those non-production environments too.
Yes, development happens there, and they support that architecture.
Measuring performance of these apps.
Required to establish service-level agreements, SLAs, for application performance and meet them.
Given the data-involved farm details, maybe PII security must be paramount for these analytics apps.
Absolutely. Explicitly required to comply with security requirements for sensitive data and PII. Things like data masking, protecting data during development. Security in non-production environments is also stressed heavily.
And they manage the data pipelines feeding these tools.
The whole process. Acquisition, suppression if needed, engineering, automating data feeds with documented processes.
Administering the reporting environment itself. Moving things to production.
Reviewing and promoting products to production, yes.
The document even gets specific about using Jira, the project tracking tool.
It does. Requires using the official USDA FPAC Jira instance. Using it with product owners to document key things.
Like what?
Requirement approval before starting development. Tracking dashboard complexity. Documenting the product owner's review and acceptance. Tracking all the key dates requested. baseline, projected, actual. Recording approval status, even adhering to specific dashboard publishing SOPs.
That level of detail in Jira shows how much they value transparent workflow and documented approvals.
Absolutely. Accountability and process adherence are clear priorities.
Now, these systems are critical for FPAC's mission. What if disaster strikes? Continuity of operations, SCOP, disaster recovery, DRA.
That's covered too. The contractor has to submit their approach for how they'll maintain access to the production solution if there's a major disruption.
And that plan needs details on performance standards during an event, data backup, and restore, the whole KEO/PDR strategy.
Exactly. And if an event happens, they need to coordinate closely with FPAC, track the impact, assess it, work to bring services back online quickly, provide impact assessments, and mitigation strategies. Planning for the worst is required.
Okay, we've mentioned data governance several times. There's a specific task area for it. What does that involve?
This is focused support for the Assistant Chief Data Officer's Office, the ACDO, within FPAC.
Helping them develop long-term strategies.
Multi-year strategies and roadmaps, yeah. Covering governance itself, modernization, data catalog implementation, data stewardship, data literacy programs, privacy and sharing policies, data democratization efforts.
So analyzing current systems and recommending improvements, but framed within these broader strategies.
Yes. Leading or collaborating on developing these strategies, policies, processes, working closely with the ACDO and the FPAC agencies.
Keeping the strategy up to date.
Working with stakeholders to periodically refresh the FPAC data strategy, making sure it stays relevant.
And connecting strategy to actual projects on the ground.
Identifying and supporting projects that align with the strategy, yes. Also supporting data calls, requests for information from stakeholders, the main USDA CIO office, even the Office of the Secretary.
It specifically mentions helping set up a data governance board.
Collaborating with FPAC leadership and others to establish that board is a specific requirement. Supporting its meetings, minutes, tracking action items.
What else under governance?
Improving data quality management, profiling data, defining metrics, establishing metadata governance, and supporting the ACDO with documentation and communication using tools like SharePoint, Confluence, Jira, Teams. This governance structure is clearly seen as vital.
Looking to the future now, the PWS explicitly calls out artificial intelligence and machine learning, AML.
Yep, a dedicated support area for the ACDO office and FPAC agencies regarding AML.
Again, focus on strategy first.
Collaborating to create multi-year strategies and roadmaps specifically for AML initiatives across FPAC.
And supporting the practical side, like ML Ops.
Yes, supporting the implementation of ML Ops lifecycle practices. That's crucial for making ML projects consistent, scalable, and compliant with all the rules federal, USDA, FPAC level. Also supporting the execution of the broader USDA AI strategy.
What about exploring new ideas? Proofs of concept.
Definitely. Supporting development, testing, execution of ML PACs, and notably, generative AI packs. Exploring the potential.
And if a PAC looks promising.
Assisting in turning successful packs into operational solutions. Integrating them, making sure they align with policies.
Generative AI gets specific compliance mentions.
Very clear on this. All Gen AI tools must comply with USDA's interim guidance throughout their lifecycle. They also collaborate on developing governance frameworks just for AML, explicitly mentioning ethical and secure deployment.
Another governance body, a FPAC AI Governance Council.
Assisting in establishing and managing that council, yes, to provide oversight for AI within FPAC.
And data rights for AI work seem particularly strict.
Extremely. Adhering to data ownership, government retains full rights to data used for training or development, secure handling and encryption according to NIST FedRAMP standards.
And record keeping for AI is detailed.
Comprehensive records, documenting potential bias sources, any use of PII, demographic, biometric data, providing accuracy guarantees via an SLA for model performance.
That level of scrutiny on AI data use really highlights the risks they're focused on mitigating. What if the contractor modifies AI tech after it's deployed?
They have to notify the government first, document the changes and impacts, and get written approval before making any modification affecting performance, accuracy, or data handling.
And the government can make them roll it back.
Reserve the right to require reverting to a previous version or suspending use if changes cause problems or introduce risk. Shows very tight control.
Compliance oversight and audits apply here too.
Fully. Supporting audits, providing unrestricted access to systems, processes, records, people involved with USDA data or AI services, complying with laws like FTARA and federal AI policy memos, Government can even ask to see the contractor's internal security reports. Transparency is key.
Okay, beyond these core tasks, the PWS mentions flexibility, ad hoc support.
Right, recognizing things change. The contractor has to support current tools and be ready for future growth, changes in FPAC standards.
Things like surge support, helping users adopt new tools, handling random data requests.
Exactly. Building in adaptability for a long dynamic contract.
All this work generates specific outputs, deliverables. The PWS summarizes them.
Table 2 in the doc is the go-to reference. We've touched on many QCP, transition plan due at kickoff, project plans soon after. Weekly, monthly status reports are standard.
Service request support, troubleshooting.
Ongoing, as needed. User training also as needed for rollouts. Product sign-off upon completion. Backup DR plans. Strategy roadmaps for governance. AML also required as needed or on specific timelines.
How does the government check the quality? Ensure the contractor is performing.
The government uses a Quality Assurance Surveillance Plan, or QASP. The contractor's Quality Control Plan, QCP, has to align with that.
And there are timelines for reviewing deliverables.
Yep. 10 business days for the government to review drafts, 5 for finals. Then the contractor has 5 business days to fix any issues.
What if the government misses their review deadline?
Interesting point. The deliverable is considered acceptable by default. Incentivizes timely review, provides clarity.
And performance is measured formally. The PRS table.
The performance requirement summary table, yes, uses acceptable quality levels, equals.
Give us a flavor of those equals.
Pretty strict, submitting the QCP or transition plan on time, 100% AQL. Monthly status reports on time, error-free. 95% AQL. Invoices on time, error-free. 98% AQL. User training being relevant, accurate, effective. 100% AQL. Sets a clear bar.
And consequences for missing the equal.
Remedies are defined. Often resubmit or fix the issue quickly, maybe within 3 days. Performance is also linked to their CPARs rating the official contractor performance score. Big incentive there.
That focus on measurable performance down to equals really shows how they try to manage these huge IT projects. What does the government provide to the contractor?
Government-furnished equipment, GFE, laptops, docking stations, peripherals, software licenses, access to the necessary environments.
Any catches with the GFE?
International travel is restricted. Needs specific contract authorization and prior written approval from multiple federal offices. Even travel to U.S. territories like Puerto Rico is considered international for GFE. Personal international travel with GFE is a no-go, highlights security concerns.
And information, GFI.
Government-furnished information. Existing data for migration, security accreditation documents, Privacy Act info, Section 508 compliance docs. It all remains government property, must be returned. NDA is required for everyone accessing it.
Okay, let's dive into personnel, security, compliance. This section looked incredibly detailed in the PWS.
It is, and it's absolutely critical. Starts with key personnel. A data architect is required, designated at the main IDIQ level, and might also serve as the PM for specific task orders.
And that PM role has tough experience requirements.
Very specific. Minimum 12 years in software web development, focused on database design and management. Experience with Agile, enterprise search, distributed systems, various data tasks, analysis, migration, modeling, integration, and alternate PM is also required.
Beyond key people, there's mandatory training for everyone.
Annual training for all contractor and sub-employees. Unconscious bias, anti-harassment, info security awareness, records management, Section 508.
And then the really deep stuff on security clearances and access.
Yeah. This is where HSPD 12 comes in Homeland Security Presidential Directive 12. Requires getting a PIV card personal identity verification.
Which involves background checks.
Identity proofing and background checks, yeah. The level of check depends on the position sensitivity designation, the PSD, of the role.
Position sensitivity designation.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Every government role gets a PSD based on potential risk. Low, moderate, high-risk public trust, or various national security levels. This dictates the type of background investigation needed from a basic and ASCI up to much more extensive investigations, potentially requiring a security clearance.
And you need this before you can even start working.
Absolutely strict on this. The background investigation must be adjudicated, basically, approved before day one. Proof needed 5 days prior. If someone's found ineligible, the contractor has to replace them. It's a major logistical factor.
System access is tightly controlled, too.
Role-based access control, RBAC, is mandated. Least privilege principles.
NDAs for everyone touching data.
Non-disclosure agreements required for all contractor and sub-personnel before starting. And for replacements, information only used for the contract.
Clear rules if someone leaves.
Very. Procedures for returning all government property IDs, passes, GFE to the SOAR. Contractor can be billed if stuff isn't returned.
Beyond people, system-level cybersecurity is intense.
Computing environment, CE certification needed. Adherence to a specific cybersecurity maturity model certification, CMMC, level based on USDA policy. Security awareness training completed before requesting access.
Supply chain risk management, SCRM, gets woven in.
Integrated throughout the system development lifecycle, following NIST standards like 800-161.
And they need a specific SCRM plan.
A CDM APL SCRM plan details how they ensure IT is genuine, license is valid, quality control against counterfeit or modified items, secure delivery, secure disposal, transparency on manufacturing, independent verification. It's a big deal, submitted with the proposal and annually. Treated as CUI-controlled, unclassified information.
The focus on counterfeit parts seemed really specific.
It is. A known risk area. Report suspected counterfeit within a day, label it, separate it, don't dispose without direction, aid investigations.
And no buying stuff that's about to become obsolete.
Right. No products within 18 months of end of life or end of support. Keeps the tech current, reduces vulnerability.
Product integrity overall. Hardware, software, patches.
Ensuring authenticity. Providing FIPS 140.2 compliant hashes for software patches, following OWASP for secure coding, least privilege, SCRM for delivery, digital delivery validated, monitored, encrypted.
Even firmware security is called out.
Patch and vulnerability management for firmware, continuous monitoring, including third-party components, verifying integrity using cryptography, fast remediation of 0 days, secure coding, using current supported third-party components, critical vulnerability updates within 14 days, or provide mitigations. That focus on firmware shows a really deep zero-trust approach.
What if a virus or malware slips through?
Contractor tries to check first, warrants no known issues. If a breach causes malware, they must act immediately, help USDA clean it up everywhere, even outside the contract, and cover costs. Need technical proof for false positive.
They need a formal incident response plan.
Following NIST guidelines, notify USDA within 24 hours of implementing the plan. Provide a prevention plan within a day of an incident.
And if there's a breach, who tells the public?
They assist USDA, but USDA controls external notifications unless legally required otherwise.
Vulnerability disclosure is mandated.
Contractor must have procedures to disclose and fix vulnerabilities, public or not. Provide impact, root cause, remedies. Crucially, disclose any known backdoor methods and prove they're deleted, disabled. Need a vulnerability detection remediation program.
And the government can audit their security.
Absolutely. USDA or a third party can audit contractor systems, controls, docs, people related to USDA data services. Contractor provides access, assistance at no cost, complies with recommendations. USDA can even see their internal security reports. Huge emphasis on auditability.
There's a section on covered telecommunication equipment, section 889. What's that about?
Prohibiting specific telecom equipment services, mainly from certain Chinese firms, as defined in federal regs. Formal review process if prohibited gear is found.
The exceptions seem tricky.
Yeah. Agencies can use services connecting to third parties, like backhaul, using prohibited gear, or use gear that can't route user data. But the PWS clarifies. A contractor's own use of third-party backhaul with prohibited gear is prohibited unless waived. Targets the contractor's infrastructure.
Finally, even environmental risks are mentioned.
Following environmental laws, reducing emissions, proper waste disposal, considering location transport choices to minimize disaster disruption.
Wow, that security personnel and compliance section is exhaustive. Background checks, supply chain, firmware vulnerabilities, audits, section 889, environment. It paints a picture of incredibly strict oversight.
It absolutely reveals the layers upon layers of risk management and compliance needed for critical government IT.
One last major area, section 508, compliance. Accessibility.
A federal mandate. Ensuring information and communications technology, ICT, is accessible to people with disabilities. Rehabilitation Act, Workforce Investment Act.
And it applies to everything built under this contract.
All ICT products and services must conform to the revised 508 standards, scooping technical, functional requirements, plus USDA policy and WTIG Tag 2.0 guidelines.
No wiggle room. What if something isn't compliant?
The contractor must fix any non-compliant ICT at no cost to the agency. It has to be accessible, period.
Specific requirements cover the whole life cycle.
Development, installation, maintenance, ensuring upgrades don't reduce accessibility. Service personnel need awareness. Purchasing or hosting ICT requires validating conformance.
Documentation is vital here too.
Contractor documents, compliance measures, testing records, defects. A key deliverable is the Accessibility Conformance Report, ACR, using the standard VPAT template for each ICT item, submitted before acceptance.
And the agency can check this themselves.
Reserve the right to require demos, independent testing. All ICT will be evaluated by the Federal Section 508 Testing Center.
So a mandatory, thoroughly enforced requirement ensuring usability for everyone.
It's fundamental for federal IT, non-negotiable.
Looking back at this whole PWS, the scope, the complexity, it's just immense. Migrating decades-old systems, pushing into cloud and AI, but wrapped in these incredibly detailed layers of security, privacy, accessibility, governance mandates.
It's way beyond just a tech upgrade, isn't it? It's strategy, governance, risk management, compliance, huge human resource efforts, all supporting vital programs that impact agriculture and conservation across the country.
It really does make you appreciate the sheer engineering and management challenge. Given this level of specificity, we've just walked through everything from daily meetings and agile workflows to zero trust, counterfeit parts, Gen AI guidance, 508 standards. What does this reveal about the effort involved in running critical government IT today?
It shows that pushing innovation, like with AI, has to go hand in hand with incredibly stringent oversight, resilience planning, and a deep, deep understanding of compliance. It makes you wonder, how does this blend of embracing the new while demanding such granular control compare to how data initiatives are run in, say, the private sector?